So here is your homework for that ellipses lesson. So the homework part here is doing what we did the other day. We're going to have a graph or information. We need to write the equation that comes from what you see. So for here, I need to find the center. And if you can't see it, you need to count the ends. So we need to know the end vertices here. So you can put a little something or other there of where the ends are. And then find where the center would be for that. So right here would be the center. So the center is at 4 and -2. So already I know it's x subtract 4 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to 1. I already know that part. Now I need to know the next part. Now a is the distance from the center to the top or bottom. So count that out. That's 5. Square it, and it goes underneath the y. The distance to the right from the center to the minor vertex is 2. So square it, and the answer is 4. So write down those vertices. So the major vertices are at 4, 3, and 4, -7. The minor vertices, here on the left and right, are at 2, -2. And the other one is at 6 and -2. The foci. So we just need to understand that to find c, it's the square root of a squared minus b squared. So it's 25 take away 4, which is 21. So the foci affects the y coordinate. So we're going to write down the center. It's the y coordinate plus or minus root 21, and we found the foci. All right, number 2. Can you find the center of this ellipse and then write down what the center is? So 3 to the right, 4 up, that's the center. Next, the vertices. Can you identify the major and minor vertices? I mean, it's almost a circle. A circle would be an ellipse where we don't have a minor and major. That means the diameter would be the same in all directions. But this is a little wider than it is taller. So if you count from the center to the right, it's 4. So let me write this down first of all. So under the x, 4 squared is 16. If I count up or down, that distance is 3. And if you square it, that's 9. Then I need to write down what these vertices are. So the major vertices left and right, one is at -1 and 4. And the other one, if I count to the right, is 7 and 4. This is an 8 by 8, these grids. The minor, top and bottom, so that would be 3. And almost at the top there is 7. And then 3 and 1. And the foci, so if I take and subtract, that's the square root of 7. And make sure it affects the x coordinate. So the center, 3, the x coordinate plus or minus root 7, and then 4. All right, number 3. Look at this ellipse. First step, find the center of this ellipse. Then once you find the center, write it down. So that's at -1 and -5. Then we can write that down. X plus 1 squared, y plus 5 squared is equal to 1. Now this is a horizontal ellipse, so count from the center to the right. How many does that count? That's 6 across, that's 36. And know that these ends you're going to have to find too, just like these ends, major and minor vertices. The distance up is just 1, so when I square 1, or you don't need it, but it's just 1 there. The major on the right and left, so one is at -7 and -5. The other is at 5 and -5. The minor, top and bottom, are at -1 and -6. And the other minor vertice is at -1 and -4. So label them where they are and then find on the grid where they are. Foci, when I look at the equation, know that it's horizontal. So the center is at -1. It's the x coordinate I'm going to add and subtract. When I subtract the denominators, I get the square root of 35 and then -5. Number 4, find the center. Looks like it's right there at -3 and 0. So already I know it's x plus 3 squared and just y squared is equal to 1. I don't need parentheses around there just to have it. The denominator, find the distance from the middle to the top. That's going to be your major because it's longer going to the top. If you count that, that's 7. If you square it, that's 49. Count the distance to the right. That's 4. Square it, that's 16. So can you find the vertices top and bottom and the minor vertices left and right? Let's write them down. So top and bottom, -3, -7, and -3, +7. The co-vertices left and right are at -7 and 0, and +1 and 0. And then the foci, so subtract 49, take away 16. That's the square root of 33. And which one does it affect? The y-coordinate. So it's -3. Now, oops, -3. Now I'm not going to go 0. I'm just going to go plus or minus the square root of 33. So when you subtract, that's where you get 33. Write an equation for each list based on the information given. So to find the center, I'm going to do the average here. So 10 and -6 is -6 when you add them. Divide by 2 is -3. And the y's average out to -10 when you add and divide by 2. Notice the A would be the major distance, so from the center. Now notice for the major vertices, it's the x-coordinate that changes. So the x to the x, what distance is that? So that distance is 13. For B, it's the y value to the minor, so -10 to -5. That distance is +5. Now we can write our equation down. So we have x plus 3 squared. We have y plus 10 squared equal to 1. The denominator, which way is this? The major, the x change. So a squared goes with the x. That's 169. And then 25, 5 squared goes with the y. Vertices, again. So our center would be 3. Add them together, and you get 8 divided by 2 is 4. Our vertices, again, the distance. So notice the y's changed here. So the y to the y, the distance from 4 to 13, or 4 to -5 is 9. For B, notice the x's. So it's the x to the x. So the x-coordinate to the x-coordinate, the distance is 4. And now you have all the things you need for your equation. That's x subtract 3 squared. In this case, the x is the minor, so b squared 16 goes with it. Then we have y minus 4 squared. Again, 9 goes with it, so square it, that's 81, and that's equal to 1. Turn the page. Fine, you're given the vertices and the length of the minor axes. So the major vertices, again, the center is going to be the midpoint, so add them. That's 16 divided by 2 is 8. Add them, that's 4 divided by 2. Now, the distance A, notice the x-coordinates changed for the major. So x to x, that A is 10, the distance from 8 to 18. For B, the minor axis is 14. So split it in half, that means the distance from the center to the minor vertex is 7 by dividing by 2. And that's it. We have x subtract 8 squared. We have y subtract 4 squared. And now remember the x's changed. So the a squared goes underneath the x, and the 7 squared goes underneath the y. Again, if you press pause and try it, and then press play, I think you'll get more out of it. The co-vertices means the minor. So first of all, the center, add them and divide by 2. So that's -18, and divide by 2 is -9. And then the 5s, that'll be 5. So B, that would be the co-vertices of the minor, the distance. So did the x or y? So the x is changed. So from x to x, the distance is 6 for the minor. For the major, A, the length of the major axis is 30. So how do I find A? Just divide it by 2, and now you have everything you need. So that's x plus 9 squared. That's y minus 5 squared. And then the denominator. Now know again that this is a vertical. So the minor, the x is changed. So the 15 squared goes underneath the y. and the 6 squared goes underneath the x. Now can you work with the foci? So the vertices are there, so that means the center is at 1, add them and divide by 2, that's -8. It tells me also that the distance, so those are major vertices. So A then, and notice the y coordinates change. So the y to the y, the distance is 8. So that's what we know so far. Little c, for the foci, look at 1 and -8. The c then would just be the square root of 39. So I know that c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. So I just plug it right in. And then to get b squared by itself, I'd add b squared, subtract 39, and you have everything that you need. So x subtract 1 squared, y plus 8 squared, and then the denominator. So remember, is this a vertical or horizontal? So look at the major vertices. It's the y that changed. So that means a squared, 64, goes with the y, and b squared, 25, goes with the x. 10. We have co-vertices. So those are minor. So first of all, the big C center. That'd be at -10 and divide by 2, and that's -3. That's the center. The B from the co-vertices, if I look at what changed, it's the y coordinate that changed. So y coordinate to y coordinate, that distance is 3. So what I need to find is A. So the formula would be c squared. Oh, and what does little c equal? Look here, it's 4 root 10. Adding and subtracting to the x coordinate. So I want to go c squared. That's 16 times 10. That's 160. Is equal to a squared, I don't know. Subtract b squared, which is 9. To get a squared by itself, add 9. So a squared is equal to 169. That's it. So x plus 10, y plus 3. Know that the a goes with the x, because it's the x coordinate for the major. And b squared, 9, goes with the y coordinate. All right, 2 more left. Try 11 and 12 and then press play. That's what I would do. Or follow along if you need support. The length of the minor axes is 10. So divided by 2, I already know b is 5. If I look at the foci, it's going to give me the center. So look carefully, and the center is at -7 and 8. And little c is 5 root 3. What I don't know is a. So the formula is c squared. That's 25 times 3 is equal to a squared, I don't know, minus b squared, which is 25. To get a squared by itself, add 25, so a squared is equal to 100. And that's it. So the center, x plus 7 squared, y subtract 8 squared, and then the denominator. So think, it's the x coordinate that was changing, right, with the foci? So that's the major. So a squared, 100, goes underneath the x. 5 squared, 25, goes underneath the b. Last one, number 12. What do we know? Length of the major axis is 10. Divided by 2, a is 5. Big C, the center. The average of the foci, that's 5, and that's 12 divided by 2. So it's at 5, 6. Little c. What do I know about little c? So notice the y coordinates change. So the y coordinate to the y coordinate, that distance is 3, and that's what little c equals. So c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. So I'm going to add b squared and subtract 9, and now I know what b squared equals. Now put it all together. The center, x subtract 5, y subtract 6, equal to 1. Which one's major and which one's minor? Look at the foci, the y coordinate change. So underneath the y will be a squared. That's 25. Underneath the x will be 16. And you have it. All right, that's it. You did your homework. Mr. G Math, over and out. I am proud of you that you're doing your work. And until next time, good job.